All right. Well, I'm going to start today with a short guided imagery for us to just sort of settle and relax and arrive fully, heart, mind, spirit. And I'll tell you briefly, this is a variation on a metta that you might know already. You probably experienced or do in your own practices, but it's the loving kindness metta. However, it's been taken by a science teacher at Penn State, and which he uses in his freshman biology classes, right? And academia, mainstream academia, and he does this with them as a way of getting them to honor and to think about the aspects of the cosmos and of life that science can't explain. The aspects of life and the cosmos that Einstein referred to as the fourth dimension, his sort of reference to spirituality and the parts of our existence that are still a mystery to us. So I invite you, if you feel comfortable closing your eyes, if you'd rather turn your screen off, that's okay. Although nobody's going to be paying attention to you, I won't be paying attention to you. I'm going to try to do this in my own way. So anyway, this will just be a couple of minutes, 2 or 3 minutes. So if we just close your eyes and maybe take a few really deep, intentional breaths and try to draw let your air out at a comfortable pace. And just do that a few times with your mind and your focus on your breathing, perhaps on any physical sensations that go with that. And you try to let go of all extraneous thoughts as you passively watch your breathing in and out. Now, call to mind someone you love very dearly. In your mind's eye, see the face of this beloved one. Silently speak his or her or their name. Feel your love for this being, like a current of energy coming through you. Now let yourself experience how much you want this person to be free from fear. How intensely you desire that this person be released from greed and ill will, from confusion and sorrow and other causes of suffering. Continue to feel that warm energy coming through your heart. See in your mind's eye those with whom you share your daily life, family members, close friends, colleagues, the people you live and work with. Let them appear now in a circle around you. Behold them one by one. Silently speak their names and direct to each in turn the same current of loving kindness. Among these beings may be some with whom you are uncomfortable, in conflict or tension. With these especially, experience your desire that each be free from fear, from hatred, from greed and ignorance, and other causes of suffering. Now allow to appear in wider concentric circles all beings with whom you share this planet time. Though you have not met, your lives are interconnected in ways beyond knowing. To these beings as well, direct the same powerful current of loving kindness. Experience your desire and your intention that each awaken from fear hatred, greed, confusion, and that all beings be released from suffering. Now turn the power of your imagination into the interstellar distances. Turn and behold your own planet, your home. See it suspended there in the blackness of space, like a jewel turning in the light of the sun. That living blue-green planet, laced with swirls of white, is the source of all you are, all you've ever known and cherished. Feel how intensely you desire that it surmount the spreading wounds and dangers of time. Direct toward it the strong current of your compassion and wishes for its healing. As you approach Earth once more, let yourself see the being you know best of all, the person it has been given to you to be in this lifetime. You know this person better than anyone else. Know its pain, its hopes, its need for love, and how hard it tries. Let the face of this being, your own face, appear before you. Speak your name in love. And experience with that same strong energy current of loving kindness how deeply you desire that this being, you, be free from fear, released from greed and hatred, liberated from ignorance and confusion and all other causes of suffering. Before we return together and open our eyes, if they happen to be closed, let's just take another moment of several deep intentional breaths that can help you center and return to our group. Well, thank you all for participating in that. And I'll refer back to it a little bit, just the idea of introducing mystery in a public university and in a very content-oriented discipline like science. But I'll just say that this was related to a theme that I personally wanted to explore today. And I thought, what greater group to explore this with than you guys, who are immersed in holistic education in different ways and have different life experiences that bear on that. So so the theme today is sort of mystery. And I guess, you know, a bit of my intention for using it here tonight or this afternoon was some of the comments that came up in our last meeting. And Robin, one of them was your experience of being in Portland. Can you recount that for us in a nutshell? Do you remember what you shared? I can't hear you, you're muted.
I'm just trying to recall. The first, it was Julissa had posed a question about connecting with our prior selves at a moment when we really felt like we had made a change. I forget exactly that whole context, but as soon as you said that experience in Portland, my first year in Portland, I was doing a lot of inner work with a mentor, and I was walking us down a street in Portland one day, and I in the rural area on the outskirts of Portland, and I suddenly just had this strong awareness that I couldn't observe my whole surroundings, myself, observe the trees, all the things I was wanting to observe. Whenever my thought would go away with me, when I get caught in thought, I couldn't observe. And it was just this really strong understanding in that moment that the two were not you have to either observe or think. And usually if you're thinking, you can't really pay attention to all the wonderful details around you and in you. Is that what you were talking
That's
about?
great. You had to stop thinking to observe. It was what I took away.
Yeah.
And Julissa shared something sort of similar in her example of the way she viewed an encounter that she later reflected on and then could see the encounter actually meant something really different to her. It reminded me of John Moriarty, a philosopher from Ireland who used to explain to his disciples of people who would swarm around him on this hill out in the west of Ireland to hear him speak. He would talk about how we need to put aside all knowing, put aside all knowing, all known knowing, all information. He would go on and on about that point. And then he would say, you know, you come to the rock, put aside all knowing about that rock's history, about its geological formation, about its view in the landscape. Put aside everything you know in order to see the rock. Put aside all knowing. So, you know, a few years ago, you might have been at this conference where Jack spoke. It was actually in Thailand. It was at one that Prabhupada, and I think it might have been 2018. And we had followed the format that we had done here at our conference at SOU, where if a keynote person would speak more briefly than typical keynote speakers would speak, and then we would have elders representing the community, different parts of the community, be able to offer a wise reflection about the words that were spoken by the keynote. So here's Jack's keynote. Basically, Jack Miller spoke, and he talked about the 4 cornerstones, as he called it, of holistic education: trust, love, joy, and mystery. And about trust, he asked the question, is the universe friendly? And he said that for Einstein, it was. And this became a basis for Einstein's own trust in even the things that he could not explain. So when we feel this trust, he said, our souls sing. This should be one of the major goals of education. Like, one more quick comment about trust was made by one of the wise elders, a Thai man, who said Jack's words on trust calmed him down. He was worried about his own ability to express himself in English, this Thai man. It made him happy. He said Thailand schools in general, not Rungaroon, but Thailand schools in general, don't talk about love, mystery, joy. You have to walk straight. If you don't get the degree for a higher salary, then education is leading you the wrong way. I don't think we're just talking about Thailand there, but that was the example that he gave. In love, Jack said that Gandhi and King were exemplars of this on an international stage, and that really exemplified the unifying force of love. For Gandhi, it was called the soul force. In Bhutan, the minister for Bhutan education, or former minister for Bhutan education, was there, and he spoke and said, it is difficult to love others if you don't first love yourself. About joy, I'll just say that he called it that Jack called it the deepest form of happiness. It's the breath, it's the meditation. It's deeper than happiness, he said. And finally, mystery, sort of the subject of our little short time together. And I'll ask you to think about this in just a moment in a breakout room with a partner, okay? So what Jack spoke about mystery was that it exists in every human being. It's underneath the surface. We live so much in the surface. So as far as education, he's calling holistic educators to respect the mystery of each child, of each student. That this is the ultimate goal of the teacher. Bring a humility to the understanding of this mystery, or the attempts to observe this mystery, and and that's not a phony kind of humility. It's more of that humility that, like we spoke about 2 weeks ago in this group, we talked about awe. And I think Julissa asked us to think about something that happened that created a sense of awe in us or wonder. So I'm going to ask you now to think about something along the same lines. I'd like you to recall a moment or an incident in which you experienced a sense of mystery or wonder or awe at something you couldn't quite explain. And as we consider the role of mystery, I'll just give you a little preview. When we come back from our breakouts, I'd like us to think, how does this mesh with our teaching life, our life in the classroom? If we understand, the perhaps the beauty or the spirituality of being able to appreciate and respect something that we don't understand or something that science cannot explain, does that even have a role in our teaching lives, in our classrooms? Does it have a role in our parenting? Or does it have a role in our just our everyday life? So does that prompt still make sense to think about something that you perhaps look back on, or even at the time thought of it as a mystery, something that you didn't understand, but that still happened? You still were able to experience it somehow. Is that all right? Okay. So Kevin, Andrea, I'll maybe, because you're sharing camera, I'll put you in the same room, but I'll put you in a room with somebody, okay? Would you two be, and Viola, would you guys be willing to share a room together? Okay, and Kim, perhaps you and Aya? I'd love you to, my hidden agenda, I'd love you to get to know each other because of your work in ACL.
This is funny. We'll discuss it, but we had a plan. So now here's the mystery. Here's the mystery, because we had a plan and it's gone. Instead, this is going to happen. Awesome.
Okay, you can talk about this mystery right now in your breakout room. And what's the significance of it for class? What's the significance of any mystery for classroom teaching? And Robin, would you be my partner? And Robin, if you'll just stay in this main room in case anybody shows up late, like I did last week, I'll be able to let them in a breakout room. So
you do the breakout room, since it's,
yeah.
I don't, how do I empower you? Or I've empowered everybody already?
Oh, that's right. You've got the controls. You could make me a co-host, or you could make the rooms yourself.
Okay, let me make you a co-host.
All right.
Where do I go to do that though? Go to participants?
Participants, yeah. And I want everybody to know that Julissa did have a familial thing that she didn't expect come up, boom, and she says hello to everyone.
Oh, lovely. Well, we miss her. Okay, so here we go, everybody. We're just relatively briefly, right? Maybe 7 or 8 minutes. So, feel free to share whatever you is on your heart about that question. So I'm going to create the rooms, and I'm letting you all select the person who's your partner. So Kim and Aya, Viola, and then Cam and Andrea will be together. So here we go. Did you get it? There we go. Okay, Kim, I'm going to put you in room 2. And Aya, I'm going to move you to room 2. And let's see, and Viola got into number 1. Oh, Kim, I need to move you, don't I? Okay, I'm going to move you to room 2. Okay. And actually, I need to put, Viola's got unassigned, so I'm going to put her in into 1. Okay, there we go.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Hello, Robin.
Hi.
How's it going?
It's going well. I really do. I put sun lotion on today, but I feel so like too much exposure to the sun this afternoon.
Oh, it happens quick in this time of year. It really does. You got to be careful.
So beautiful to be out there though.
Wow.
Wow.
It's just 90 is just like great hot weather temperature. It's not too hot.
Yeah. Well, and that's part of the reason we went up to Mount Ashland. We thought if we went higher, it'd be a little cooler.
You know, at 7,000 feet, you know, you're going to be burning about 3 times quicker than you do on the valley floor.
You're right. Yeah.
It's the
I don't
elevation.
go into mountains very often. So
Yeah, because you could have been out for that length of time and not gotten so burned if you were down below. Well, do you have something you want to share, or do you want me to start?
Well, originally when you said a sense of mystery, what came to me was just standing next to one of the redwood trees. And this deep sense of the wisdom of the tree. And this year I've, you know, for the first time in many, many years, I've been standing next to a lot of redwoods. And I feel like, how did it, I don't even fathom what is in that tree that makes me feel so connected to the earth at the moment that I stand next to that tree. And it's such a wonderful feeling to stand next to a redwood. I love all trees, but there's something about these grand old big trees that tower so far above, and we have so many walking around here. And to me, that in itself, the tree and how it makes me feel, is just this huge mystery.
Yeah. How do you respond to the notion that it is a mystery, that you can't explain what you're experiencing exactly?
I respond to it. I think I go into more quiet space inwardly, and I try to just not think. Is always big on my agenda. It's not even that I try to not think. My thoughts go away, and I'm just being next to it's almost like I'm not separate from the tree in the moments that I'm really taking it in.
Yeah.
It's just being with the tree, and the tree is with me.
That's great. Yeah.
And there's something about the redwoods that make it easier to go into that space than almost all the other trees. I can do it sometimes. With the redwoods, it's almost any redwood that is the big ones. I mean.
Yeah. 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 Okay. Those big old 2, 3, 4,000-year-old trees. Incredible. For me, I just had flashed on, I tried to pick something really recent, and it just was this morning. I woke up really uneasy today. I mean, unbalanced today. I wasn't feeling very well this morning. I wasn't able to walk very well. I got my second booster yesterday. I'm not sure if that was it, but it could have been. I didn't know, but I started really late in the morning, much later than I usually do, and came out to play my violin out here in the barn. I always like to start the day with that while my head doesn't have thoughts in it and isn't directing my actions. And I found myself just locked into a tune that I was playing over and over again, along with a friend that had recorded it for me, playing it way fast, way hard tune. And had I stopped to think about what I was doing, I would have given up. I wouldn't have been able to play the tune. I just had to let go and let it go. And I couldn't explain why this morning I could play it, I mean, smoothly, flawlessly, in complete flow. I couldn't have done it if I wasn't in flow. But I can't really explain that idea that I couldn't do it yesterday like that. And why not? And I know we bring a lot of, our own stuff to the table of any event like that. But to me, it kind of represented, again, what you're talking about, oneness, right? And to me, I was thinking about that topic along with mystery too, and the idea of complete integration that creates that flow, that harmony from within, that allows those things to happen. So It's a mystery. I won't be able to do it tomorrow. Anyway, I'm going to call people back. Thank you, Robin, for being my partner.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. And yeah.
We might have another 60 seconds here. I don't know what you set. Yeah, you did have it there. I was set mine up for 60 seconds when
I just have it whatever the natural setting is, and I think it is 60 seconds.
yeah, okay,
Or the
good.
natural, the automatic setting.
Right. Yeah, so I mean, one of my other, one of my reasons for wanting to explore this today is just thinking about how we bring things into classrooms that how do they enliven, enrich what we're doing if we can't explain them? I mean, things that we can't explain empirically or scientifically, like these kind of mysteries, of the moment.
I don't think I bring them into my classroom enough, or I've never really. I mean, yeah, I don't think I do it yet.
That's interesting. I mean, yeah, think about that. If you believe Jack's ideas that this is the cornerstone of holistic education, then I know. I mean, I wanted to look at this too. I wanted to think about. I've been working a lot on love, and I've grown a lot in the area of trust over the years. I do honor mysteries, but I also wonder how I would explain to, let's say, a group, if Mady were here, for instance, how would she talk to her teachers about that? Or how would she talk to parents on back to school night about this being a cornerstone of our education or public school?
And I guess I haven't read Jack's work as much as you have, but Krishnamurti is kind of my go-to. And it says they're still in progress. Oh, and now they're just closing. And
I forgot to hit the final button, so I just closed. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, that's okay. But in my connection with the teachings of Krishnamurti, the other are who we are in holding the space and constantly working on ourselves to allow the other being that which we cannot explain, that is greater than ourselves, is so important to who I am. How do I bring it into a classroom?
Yeah.
I guess I do that when I reframe it in that way. I just hadn't thought about it in the frame of the mystery, but I think it's a similar thing that we're talking about. And it has to do with my own state of being when I enter a classroom. But I still don't think I actually talk to students about it.
So it may be more explicit to you than it is to your students. Hi, everybody. How are your conversations? What would you like to share?
You're great.
Well, I think that all of us had in common something that related to not having electricity. So our stories were all, Yola described when she was a child and where she grew up and there was no electricity and looking up at the stars and that wonder of what's out there. And how do I share that with someone else or explain that? And Cam's experience at camp, which was a primitive camp up in the mountains, and so there's no electricity, and one of his campers and their experience being in that environment. And mine was a catch-all of just being with nature and not needing electricity for that either. So this, I think, that was kind of cool that came up.
And I'll add to that, and also this piece of not being able to find words to describe the experience or to capture it.
Viola, you were a child when you looked up and wondered what's life about or what the purpose of life, was that it?
Yeah, because my grandmother was always talking about the man on the moon. Like, I better be good or the man on the moon was going to come and get me, the boogeyman. And I kept saying, but grandma, but look beyond the moon, look out there, and I couldn't, I didn't know how to express to her what I was feeling about how beautiful it was. All these stars twinkling up there, just they seemed to be talking to me. I was just a little girl, and this back in the 50s, I must have been, I don't know, before I start, well, let's see, maybe 7 years old or something like that. And grandma was set in her ways. Oh, she was used to seeing the stars all the time, no problem. But that man in the moon, better be careful.
But that as a child, the child experience of being able to understand that there's something, there's a mystery or a wonder going
Yeah.
on that you couldn't explain necessarily, but that gave you, living in Hawaii, we would use the word chicken skin, but it almost gave me chicken skin listening to you, because I could just imagine this young girl.
Yeah, look, grandma, look at how pretty that is.
Yeah, that's great.
So just imagine this. I kind of didn't follow the rules. So instead, we were talking about, well, it's probably my fault, but will you talk about what we really talked about in a second? And I'll just preface by saying, I just got caught in Jack's 4 words and the joy of the mystery. So I just want to state that I said that. For me, I just was sort of reveling, I was sort of wallowing in that notion of feeling the joy of the mystery. And I didn't need a specific. Aya, will you speak, please?
Yeah. And then we were just saying that we are needing that space and openness and the willingness to allow that mystery to be seen by us. Because if, mystery is always there, and then we were talking about my time in Hawaii, where I saw this beautiful mother whale and then the child whale flashing and right in front of my eyes. And I was mesmerized by that. I couldn't move from that for hours and hours. So if I had caught up with all these thoughts of, where I need to be, where I need to do, I would miss the whole thing. Yeah. So, that creating that space and willingness and allowing that to happen, the mystery is always there waiting for us. And then that needs to be in a teaching too, the surprises, mystery, all that. So that's sort of what we're talking about, wasn't it, Kim? Anything else?
That's beautiful. Robin, would you mind sharing what your experience, what you could share, what you were talking to me about later when we were waiting, or anything else about it?
Okay. Well, I was talking about the experience of standing next to the giant redwoods and how that just fills me with a sense of just being with the redwoods. And it's such a powerful experience to stand next to that particular tree. I love all trees. I love being in nature. But this year I've been getting to stand next to redwoods again. And it's such a overwhelming, like not being disconnected, like the redwood and me, we're just there. And there's no thought, there's just this feeling of being with this 1,000, 2,000, 3,000-year-old tree. And I don't even think about the age. I just am filled with this sense of grounded beauty. There's, yeah. And then William, you can share what yours too.
Well, I'll sort of tie it in with some closing remarks here, because we only have 9 minutes. So, but I mean, this is leading to me to sort of my essential question for using mystery or wonder as a theme today. And it had to do with, so if you feel that those experiences, like you all sort of just described, that feeling of oneness with something, maybe you would say a tree is non-sentient, but maybe other traditions and belief systems would believe in the sentience of a redwood tree. But if you are standing under the stars, right? I mean, if you feel that these experiences are important for children in school to have, if you feel that way, how would you bring that into a classroom, and how would you explain to parents or the administrator at the school say it's a non-holistic school, how would you explain the idea that you're doing this with as part of your curriculum? You're weaving into literature or science or math, these elements of the contemplative unknowns, things that we can contemplate, but that we won't arrive at an empirical answer to. So if anyone has anything to say along the way here, I have way more notes here than I'm gonna try to level onto you, but because I'd rather hear your thoughts about that notion of if mystery is significant, if Jack calls it a cornerstone, how do we do that in school?
Well, I'm just going to say, where does mystery, what's a verb? And a verb for mystery is create. So if I'm in PE, the difference between teaching how to hold a bat and transfer of momentum and weight and center of gravity in order to strike through, in order to have the difference between a fly ball and an infield grounder, that's way different than if I teach 4/4 rhythm by clapping, and then we clap rhythms out and move, and we're creating. Those are one is sort of known patterns, and one is creation, and therefore something rather mysterious.
Yeah. Rachel Kessler has a technique that she uses in her writings called mystery questions. And it's very similar to the way Parker Palmer talks about the living questions, right? Questions that we have that we just don't necessarily have or will find the answer to, but that in themselves become the lesson. The questions themselves are the teacher. It's not the answer that's the teacher in those living questions. So one of our local middle school teachers who was in our last conference and spoke, and she's also been in other live conferences we've had, Marcia is her name, and she teaches at John Muir Outdoor School in Ashland, Oregon. Marcia uses Rachel Kessler's idea of mystery questions, and I have shamelessly borrowed that technique from her about 8 years ago and started doing that in my, particularly in my human development class when we talk about spirituality and education. And students have an opportunity in that activity. I do it, I kind of like Marcia did it, that we sit in a circle. We're in a circle a lot. Very often we're on the floor with the lights out. These are college students, okay? Viola, I'm at SOU, right? So you can imagine the scene. And we start talking about the kind of, that they've been exposed to living questions. And I invite them to think of a question that's significant to them at this time in their life. And that they're willing to write down anonymously, but willing to write down and hear it out loud. So the only criteria is that it's a question that's significant for you at this time in your life. So like, not, am I going to go to McDonald's for dinner tonight? Or, why did my boyfriend dump me, or something like that. But a question that you're reaching out to at this time in your life. And so they write them down on pieces of paper, and then they wad them up and they throw them into the center of the circle. Well, actually, they throw them into the center, and then we have a snowball fight. So everybody gets up and they grab one of these things and they start throwing them at each other. So they're all mixed up. And then we end up with one. We sit down again in the circle and we read them one by one, respectful silence in between. We read them out loud. Lights are still out. But to hear the question, it's not necessarily, it might be their question, but we don't know, right? Because it's anonymous. And I've noticed in all the years I've been doing this, there's a pattern really to the kind of questions that 21 and 22-year-olds ask. I picked up a couple just from the last class, which was in the spring, for my first term back on campus after teaching on Zoom. And I just thought I would share a few of the mystery that are inside of 21 and 22-year-olds. But you'll probably notice that some of the same mysteries are maybe inside of you. You might also imagine that some of these same mysteries are inside that young Viola who stood out under the stars and wondered, wondered in awe, what does this mean, So here's some questions. I'll just randomly read them, but why do I value myself so little? How do I know what is the right path for me? When will I feel confident about myself and not insecure all the time? Why do I feel imposter syndrome? Why do I feel lost? How can happiness last a long time? And in many cases, these people will be in a classroom in a year or two, and they will go into their classroom with those questions still. And every one of their students, no matter how old they are, will come into that classroom with their own mystery questions. So my afterthought in doing this, and in part of our debriefing, ends up being something along the lines of, these questions are there. Do we ever give them an opportunity to ask them? And reflect again on Rachel Kessler's statement one time that every day souls walk into the classroom, and if we fail to notice them, we miss the point. And I think mysteries, the way we use mystery in the curriculum, perhaps without even saying the word, but the way we internalize it for ourselves and the way we see our students and the way that we actually teach, can be enriched with the opportunities to move into realms, move into the fourth dimension, as Einstein said. So I'll stop there in our last minute or two. Does anyone have any closing? I was going to leave some time here for people to share something that touched them or that they're taking away from today, or something about your partners in the breakout rooms. Floor is yours.
I told William, I said, I'm not sure I'm using mystery in my class, but then as we were talking, I realized sometimes students ask really, really good questions. And instead of answering it, I will just say, that seems like a really good question to hold. And giving time to be quiet around the question and intentionally not answering it. And I think it's a little mystery when we ask those really good questions, and when we dig into them, trying to answer it with our brain, it's not always the right space for answering it. So just giving that time to be in silence with a question is so important.
Yeah, it's powerful silence.
Well, I'll just say one thing about my big mystery question has been, how did I come to be here from a hydrogen atom to a being that can reflect and talk and love and be awed by simple little things? To me, that's the biggest question. And I'm grateful that I am here. And I know there's no answer. I mean, there's no way, because it's an evolving thing. But just thinking about the question makes me happy and and grateful that I am here, despite that long journey, that 13.8 billion years of traveling.
All right. Wow. Thank you, Viola. Parker Palmer says that giving each other the answer, or the supposed answer, is part of what shuts us down. When people ask these questions, they very often just want others to receive it and to acknowledge it. And as we say in my classes, hold the bowl, right? We hold the bowl for each other and for that space that you're talking about, Robin, that space and time that we wait. And a lot of learning goes on in silences, as we all know. Anyone else care to say anything? We were 2 minutes over, so I don't want to pressure anybody, but I'd love if to hear from anybody else.
I just wanted to say I'm savoring all that's being said and then how I'm feeling it. So thank you.
Thank you. You're not anywhere near Yoshi, are you? Are you in a different part of Japan?
A little different.
Okay, well, Yoshi is our colleague at Doshisha University in Kyoto, and he's a major member of or helping to maybe he was the original organizer, I think, of the Asia Pacific Holistic Network. I think it's called the Asia Pacific Network for Holistic Education. And I think one of these days they're going to get back to hosting their annual conference again, which takes place in various parts in Southeast and Eastern Asia usually. So anyway, thank you all so much for holding the bowl for me today and allowing me to explore a little bit more about this idea of mystery, because it's all still a mystery. No, but hearing you guys and getting your sharing your own experiences gives me thoughts about how to proceed with developing this idea further in my own teaching. So, all right, everybody, love you. See you in 2 weeks. Andrea, who do we look forward to in 2 weeks?
So in 2 weeks, Camden and I are getting married. So we decided that we would not have a discussion on the 30th because it's our wedding day.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
Oh,
So we will resume. So it would be the second weekend in August. And I don't have a speaker lined up yet. So if anyone has a recommendation, I'm always open to those. Otherwise, I will be sending a few emails out and seeing who we can get to hold the space for us.
the idea of you two being a married couple just gives me so much hope for the world.
Thank you.
Hey, guys, thanks for being here, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You.
Thank you.
Thanks, William. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.